What's good? It's your boy CJ Goodfellow. We back with the boxing clinic. Shout out to everybody. We all know we do more than boxing now. And if you're new to the page, appreciate you showing up and viewing it. But we can talk about the NFL. Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas in the NBA and how the NBA just straight dominated the NFL today. Period. Now the NFL thought they had some potential good matchups. You had two good franchises, even though Eagles ain't won the championship. The Eagles and the Raiders. And potentially thought Houston was going to be better with Deshaun Watson this year, especially shaping up the way he played till he tore his ACL in practice, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of those games was duds. Wasn't even worth watching. I think most of the fan bases didn't even want to watch those mismatches. And it was a worst-case scenario for the NFL today, especially what's going on with the CTE, concussions, what's going on with the ownership, with the racism, the national anthem, everything in the NFL. NBA seems to be the polar opposite. They get it. They get equality. They get their players. The NBA get along with the players union for the most part right now. And they had the way better product on today, man. There's no way that you could turn away from what the NBA had on all day, unless it was in between games, halftime, to go check out the NFL. That's it. Or you was watching fantasy, playing fantasy NFL. From game 1 to game 5, NBA smashed NFL today. And that's something you usually don't see around this time of year. I understand it was a Monday, it was 2 games, whatever it is. The NFL usually don't do Christmas. I feel them. But, it's supposed to be 2 young guns and Wentz and Carr, and it shape up that way. And NFL is very unpredictable, as far as injuries and stuff of that nature. I really don't get into football outside of Sundays. Don't feel Thursday night football, and I really don't watch Monday night football. Even when I'm not working, I just don't be feeling it, unless my team is playing the Detroit Lions, or it's a great matchup, and still, it just doesn't seem, organic like it does on Sunday, if people catch my drift. But the NBA, from game 1 to game 5, the future with Philly taking on, Sixers taking on the Knicks in New York. It's always magical to see Christmas, basketball in New York. I mean, it's just something about the Garden. They got that mystique. Then you had the present with KD and the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry taking on Cleveland, and LeBron without Isaiah Thomas, which I don't really think it would have mattered. I don't think Isaiah Thomas is going to fit in well with them. Also, you had, Boston and Wizards, which turned into a good rivalry. Not as edgy as it once was because of the player turnover with Boston, but still it was an excellent game. Then you had Houston and OKC was another excellent game. And then with Lonzo Ball and Ingram out, Kuzma showed his talent out with Clarkson and Hart and Julius Randle. I mean, they played a very, very good game versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was better than expected with all the injuries that LA is dealing with. And, the NBA just straight smashed it today, man. They killed it. This is a rarity. And in the near future, or, somewhere in a little distant future, I think this is going to become the norm. I think the NBA is now starting to rise to prominence with the talent injection they had this year with a good rookie class. With them not dealing with some of the stuff that the NFL is dealing with, I think the NBA is benefiting from the NFL and what's going on. I think a lot of fans are looking for something else to go to. I think a lot of fans are going to the NBA now and looking back at the NBA, for their sports fix. And by the time playoff time get around, the NBA gonna be back in its place in the back seat, and the NFL gonna be in the driver's seat until February. And then March, April, May, June, the NBA be in full effect. But right now, today, day after Christmas, the NBA trumped the NFL, and that's something we haven't seen since Michael Jordan was playing, in the '90s. And I think the NBA is trending in the right direction. I think, the talent level is getting better. I think the new injection or the new breed of big men is now making the game more interesting. I think, it's starting to spread around the talent now. The talent is getting thicker. It was strung out. It was very, very thin. The last few years, last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, it's been strung out. And now it's getting thicker. It's a lot of guys that can play, a lot of guys that can do different things, a lot of new faces. And I think it's starting to bring more fans back and new faces to the sport of basketball, man. And, the NFL, it's on a downslope, man. It's on a downslope right now. Can they revive it? Can they get it together? I don't think so. each, sport, just like each player, each sports have their time and their generation. NFL dominated the early 2000s to the 2010s, and I think it's going to be some more turnover just because the NFL, they think they Billy Badass. They think they're above the law. They think, they think they making so much money they can do no wrong. But their demise is coming. The domestic violence is just too much adding on. Next 5 to 10 years, the NFL won't be the most dominant sport in America, especially due with the health issues that's going on. It's going to take a back seat, and we're going to see who's going to rise to be the number one sport in America. Soccer is a dark horse. You got boxing, UFC was on the downtrend. Hockey been down since they lockout. Basketball seems to be right there with the MLB, right there for the taking to step in that top spot. And we'll see. But I'll say the NBA trumped the NFL today, major. The whole weekend, we gone.